everybody, I am back and feeling much better than I did last week in my previous video. I'm able to function now without the aid of tea or Dayquil, which is great. It's still cold as fuck around here, but, you know, it is what it is. But today's Martin Luther King Day, so I had the day off, gave me time to do this video. I got a few things to go over today. The bulk of the video is going to be Star Wars, as I promised, listing some of my Star Wars theories for episodes 8 and 9. Very non-wrestling centric comparatively to what I normally do, but the major wrestling thing I do want to cover today is the results of the poll in determining the final 3 parts to my Wrestlemania Best to Worst video series. And for those of you who didn't see my previous video, I will be doing a 10-part series for Wrestlemania, 10-part video series, in which I take a certain aspect of WrestleMania's history, like a specific category, and I rank that category from best to worst. Just as an example, Intercontinental title matches. I will take all the Intercontinental title matches from WrestleMania's history and rank them from best to worst. I had selected the first 7 categories, which was Intercontinental title matches, Tag Team title matches, ladder matches, WrestleMania main events, WWE Championship matches, World Championship matches, and Undertaker streak matches. Those were the first 7 categories that I selected, and the remaining 3 categories were voted on by my viewers. Thank you so much for all the responses I got and all the comments listing your votes and everything. Tallied everything up, and it looks like the top 3 vote getters were Shawn Michaels matches, which was no surprise at all. Shawn Michaels, you know, he has the best body of work of any performing artist in WrestleMania's history. People constantly say that he has the best matches at WrestleMania, and that's definitely true. Like I said, it's the best body of work in WrestleMania's entire history. So, going over Shawn Michaels' WrestleMania matches and ranking them is actually going to be kind of difficult because he had so many great ones, and not many below average or bad ones. So, although they are there, but I'll go over that when I cover the video. But Shawn Michaels kind of ran away with the voting, and I was not overly surprised by that, and it's good. You know, it's one of the best aspects of WrestleMania's history is the quality of his work, and it'll be fun to highlight that. The other category that made it is one that I'm actually kind of excited about. I was really glad that this one won. Opening matches, ranking the best opening matches in WrestleMania history, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun because I think it's going to uncover some hidden gems in WrestleMania's history and put the spotlight on them for a little bit, because there's some really good opening matches in WrestleMania's history, particularly in some of the earlier ones. You might get like a basic singles match or a basic grudge match or a tag match or something like that that's, you know, doesn't have the best story behind it or doesn't have anything too grand about it, but it's just a nice, solid wrestling match to start the show off hot. And some of the weaker ones, it'll be interesting to see, like, if there's a correlation between opening week and the quality of the show as a whole. It's like, because if you start the show off with a wet fart, does that affect the entire show and leave you with a lackluster WrestleMania? I'll find out as I go through that particular list. So that one won, and I was actually very happy to see that. The third one that won was Triple H matches, which, based on some of your comments, was the selections for Triple H matches was based entirely on the desire to see me rant and rave about Triple H matches and shit on him some more. Now, I don't hate Triple H. I'm just going to say he's done a bunch of things that piss me off. And if you do something bad, I'm going to call you out on it. You know, he's had some very good WrestleMania matches. I thought the match he had with Bryan at 30 was very good and went the way it should have. And I had no complaints over that. The match he had at 31, bit of a head scratcher, but yeah, I'm going to talk about all of that when I cover Triple H's matches. And when I saw the Triple H matches kind of not running away with it to the degree that Shawn Michaels matches did, but when I saw like it was getting all those votes, I'm like, people want to see me rant, don't they? That's Thanks. I get to relive John Cena and Triple H again and talk about that some more. Yippee. So happy about that. But once again, thank you all for submitting your votes, and we have all 10 categories now selected. So I will be working on that video series throughout the months of February and March, and hopefully get the entire series done before WrestleMania. I don't think that this particular video series will be as time-consuming as rebooking WrestleMania was, or showcasing the Immortals was, because both of those took up a lot of time. But I expect this one will be a lot quicker. Comparatively, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to do. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that. They're coming in February. Nice little Valentine's Day present for everybody. So, yeah, that'll be fun. And once again, thank you everybody for submitting your votes. So we have that to look forward to, and that's pretty much all the wrestling stuff I want to cover today. We've got the Royal Rumble on Sunday, but I'll release a separate video talking about that. We've got Lucha Underground Season 2 coming up next week. It's almost here. I saw a video that a video that El Rey released with Matt Stryker giving a basic summary of Season 1 of Lucha Underground. So I'll post a link to it in the description, but if you did not watch Season 1 of Lucha Underground and just want an abridged catch-up on all the stuff you need to know, that video is a pretty solid... condensing 40 hours into 10 minutes. I mean, that's a pretty tough order, but it's a pretty good summarization of all of Season 1 and all the good stuff that Season 1 entailed. I'm trying to think, is there anything else coming up? Nothing huge right now. Again, the Royal Rumble's the big one, but I'll have another video for that later in the week. So yeah, that's pretty much all the wrestling stuff I wanted to cover. Non-wrestling stuff, before I get into Star Wars and my crazy Star Wars theories, I have to talk about all the unfortunate celebrity passings that we had over the last week or so. We lost Lemmy from Motorhead. We lost David Bowie, which hurt a lot. That one, I love David Bowie's music, and Labyrinth was one of the first movies I ever saw. So I have a lot of fond memories of that movie. Of course, one of my fond memories of that movie is the fact that at 4 or 5 years old, I fell in love with Jennifer Connelly. Oh my God. It's so weird that I learned I like girls that early, but it was weird. It was weird that I was in love with her as much as I was at that early of an age. But it's the truth. And, of course, Jim Henson's wonderful work and all those imagination that went into the film. And David Bowie's, his performance as Jareth and the music that he contributed to the film was all very good. So, that in addition to all the great music he did. I mean, Under Pressure is, it's one of those songs that everybody's heard and you hear it all the time, but that's because it's a damn good song. And it's like, oh my God, Freddie Mercury, oh man. Yeah, that's another one that's kind of depressing. It's like, oh, we've lost both of them. But, really, really did appreciate David Bowie's work. And then, like, a couple days after Bowie had passed, found out Alan Rickman passed away, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is getting depressing. It was just, man, I was not ready to lose all these people. Alan Rickman, he was the villain in my favorite action movie ever, Die Hard. I'll always know him as Hans Gruber. He was my favorite character in Harry Potter, too. I love Professor Snape. Just a great character, and very complex character, too. And he was perfect in the role. I loved him in Galaxy Quest. I loved Alan Rickman. I loved Alan Rickman in just about everything he was in. Even if the movie was bad, there was just something about Alan Rickman's performance and the way he carried himself that just he was just a very consistent pro, and always very good and very fun to watch, and he will definitely be missed, and that was an unfortunate one. And speaking of Alan Rickman, he had a role in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which leads into this little weird, another celebrity death that happened the same day. The voice of Robin Hood from the Disney version of Robin Hood, which is one of my favorite adaptations of Robin Hood. Basically, my favorite film versions of Robin Hood are Douglas Fairbanks, that version. My personal favorite is the Errol Flynn version and the Disney version. Those are my three favorites. When I think of Robin Hood, those are the three versions that I really like because they capture kind of the fun and adventure of Robin Hood, something that more modern versions kind of lack. Prince of Thieves was okay, but was trying a little too hard to be like hardcore, and it was like, no, Robin Hood's supposed to be like fairy tale like, kind of based in poetry and kind of it should be lyrical and kind of whimsical and stuff. I don't know. It's just anytime they try to go too hardcore with Robin Hood, to me it's just kind of silly and it doesn't work. And don't even get me started on the fucking what was that version that came out a few years ago? That one was the Ridley Scott directed version. That one was fucking awful. But I didn't even know that this voice of Robin Hood, and I'm sorry, his name escapes me at the moment, but I didn't even know he was still alive. I just assumed he had probably passed away at this point. I was like, what? We lose Robin Hood too? What is going on? I can't handle this. But we lost a lot of great entertainers and a lot of great childhood memories. We lost a lot of people that provided great childhood memories for me and were very, very good at their craft and very good at what they did. So I just wanted to say goodbye to them and offer my condolences to their friends and family and just say thank you to all of them for all the joy that they brought me during their careers, because they were very, very important to me, and they gave me a lot to be happy about, which is something I can't overstate, and something that I will always be grateful for. And with that, let's jump into the main topic of this video, which are my theories for Star Wars Episodes 8 and 9. Now, it should go without saying that this video will come with major spoilers for Episode 7, The Force Awakens, which is no surprise. So if you're one of the 2 or 3 people who has not seen that movie, turn this video off right now, because there would be spoilers aplenty. And, I mean, I'm assuming everybody has seen it at this point, but as Star Wars fans, we're all speculating on how Episodes 8 and 9 are going to play out, and this video is going to serve as kind of a time capsule to revisit when Episodes 8 and 9 are eventually released, and it'll be interesting to see how much I get right and how much I get dead-ass wrong. Again, we'll find out more, but these were just some things that popped into my head, some ideas that I had. Obviously, there's the one theory floating around that Supreme Leader Snoke is Darth Plagueis. I will not take credit for that theory, because that thing's been floating around the internet since before the movie came out. I was actually, one of my friends that I saw the movie with opening night, we were talking about that theory while we were in line to go see The Force Awakens. We were like, oh yeah, he could Supreme Leader Snoke could very well be Darth Plagueis. And I'm like, that would be interesting. An interesting way to tie into the prequels, which I'm not opposed to. I'm not going to say the prequels were good movies. They didn't make me angry, as they did some other Star Wars fans, but I'm not a huge fan of the prequels. But if you can find ways to kind of work the prequel continuity into this current set of films and make it work and come up with some interesting ideas, I don't really have a problem with it. So we'll see how that all plays out. But my crazy-ass theories, and there are 5 of them, that I came up with. Number 1, and this is going to be a thing with Episode 8, where I'm predicting that Episode 8 is going to be somewhat of a combo breaker among the Star Wars movies, because if you look at the movies, there's always big time gaps in between each film. If you look between Episodes 4 and 5, I think there's like a year in between, and it's implied that a lot of stuff has happened between, Han Solo being hunted by bounty hunters on Ord Mantell, which was covered in the holiday special, believe it or not. I believe that's what that was referencing, that animated cartoon segment from the holiday special. So the holiday special is canon. Yay! I kid. I like to. I wish that thing didn't exist, but in any case, and the rebels were able to evacuate their base on Yavin 4 and then set up a new base on Hoth, so it's implied that some time has passed between Episodes 4 and 5. 5 and 6, if you look at how proficient of a Force wielder Luke is in Episode 6 and how he was in Episode 5, it's like, you gotta think, it's like, man, a lot of time has passed in between, because the Luke we saw in Empire is not the Luke that we see in Jedi, so he's picked up some tricks, and He's a much better Jedi than he was before. Vader, watch yourself. You're in trouble this time. But so it's implied that some time has passed in between the films. And then if you look at the prequels, there's 10 years in between Episodes 1 and 2, and then there's at least 3 or 4 years to account for the Clone Wars in between Episodes 2 and 3, and then you get the 20-year gap in between 3 and 4. And then between 6 and 7, there's 30 years. So there's usually pretty big time gaps in between the Star Wars sequels. I think Episode 8 is going to break from that tradition and actually pick up right where the last film left off. Because where we are right now, if you look at it, Finn is in a coma, and Rey just discovered Luke Skywalker and is presumably going to begin her Jedi training. So to me, you can't have too big of a time gap because we could get cheated out of Rey's training, which would be unfortunate. And Finn, you want to see how he gets better and how he bounces back after getting nearly killed by Kylo Ren. So, yeah, it would probably be most appropriate if they just picked up right where they left off. So I'm thinking they're going to do that with Episode 8. We'll find out, I guess, during the opening crawl if I'm right or not. But it'll be interesting to see if they actually do that and not go with the huge time gap in between. So, again, we'll see how it goes. But that was just something that popped in my head. It's like, I think Episode 8 might pick up right where 7 left off, which has never really happened in a Star Wars movie before. So, again, we shall see. My second crazy-ass theory is that Rey is not using her real name. I've only seen the movie twice. By movie, I mean Force Awakens, so I'm not completely sure on this, but I don't think anybody calls her Rey on Jakku. You don't hear the name Rey up until she introduces herself to Finn, who is also not using his real name. It was a name given to him by Poe Dameron because stormtroopers don't have names, they have numbers. And that's interesting to me. It makes, and she's so secretive about her past and who her family is that it makes me wonder if she's deliberately concealing her identity by calling herself Rey. And it makes me think Rey might not actually be her real name. And there's so much mystery surrounding the three main characters of this trilogy, which would be Finn, Rey, and Kylo Ren, because there's so many questions that need to be answered about like who Rey's family is, who's Finn's family is, which I have a theory on that. I'll get to that in a second. Who are the Knights of Ren, and what does Kylo Ren have to do with them? So many other things that need to be answered, and I think they are going to explore those things in episodes 8 and 9. But my basic point with Rey is that I think she's deliberately concealing her identity, and Rey is actually not her real name. Again, we'll find out pretty quickly if I'm right once they start answering questions and stuff. So, yeah, again, we shall see. My third theory is this one relates to Finn and his backstory. All we know is that he was taken from his family as a child, as a young baby, and raised to be a stormtrooper, which he eventually broke from the programming and everything, and all the events of Force Awakens played out the way they did. Who is Finn's family? Well, a lot of people say Lando Calrissian because he's black. And, of course, in this vast galaxy, in this vast universe of Star Wars, all black people must be related, of course. Which I guess they could do that, and I wouldn't mind Lando being worked in. It just, to me, it would be I don't know, like a big coincidence. It would be a little weird that the whole, like, all black people are related thing. It would just be a little weird. But, one theory that was presented by a friend of mine, and it's very interesting, for those of you who've read the Star Wars Marvel Comics series know that they introduced a new character into the continuity named Sana Solo, who is the estranged wife of Han Solo. Which was a pretty big, I mean, that is a huge new character to introduce. And the events of the comics take place in between, if I'm not, again, I haven't read the comics, I've only heard about it, because I saw the news headline of when the comic was released, but I believe the events of the comics take place in between episodes 4 and 5. And so to introduce in the original trilogy timeline that Han Solo had a wife, it's like, oh wow, that's interesting, okay. And, you know, again, going back to this trait, Sana Solo is black. And I don't know, I know that they've done some foreshadowing with not the expanded universe material, but with some of the books and the comics and the new material that they've released. They've done some foreshadowing for the events of Force Awakens. I think somebody else was telling me that one of the comics they did also featured Poe Dameron's parents. So they've there is a precedence for this that they've already kind of established. So it makes me wonder if they introduce Sana Solo as kind of a foreshadowing for Finn's backstory. And I mean, Finn could very well be a Solo, for all we know. He could be maybe even Han's son, because who knows if that relationship got revisited at some point between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. We don't know. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of unanswered questions. So Kylo Ren and Finn could be half-brothers, and Finn could be the son of Han Solo. That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. And we'll probably find out. I expect to find out a lot more about Finn and Rey's backstories in Episode 8. And hopefully it all works out well. But with that, let's jump into my crazy-ass theory number 4, which is probably the craziest one of the bunch. And it relates to Rey's backstory and what a lot of people have been speculating, that she is either the granddaughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi or the daughter of Luke Skywalker. I'm not saying that those things are impossible. They very well could be, and they may go that route. I'm thinking of something a little bit more, like her ties to the Skywalkers, to me, might be more spiritual than biological, and it might add a whole new element to the Force that really has, as far as I know, in any kind of expanded universe material or anything like that, has never really been covered. I'm predicting, and I'm theorizing, again, I could be completely wrong, that Rey is the reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker. She is not like a blood relative of the Skywalkers, but spiritually she is the reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker. And I'm like, that would answer a lot of questions about why she's already such a proficient Force user without any training, why she's already a good pilot, why she's good with mechanics, all traits that Anakin Skywalker had. And it would also explain why Anakin's lightsaber caused that vision and why it was kind of calling to her, because it was an item that she owned in a past life. And it would add a whole different dimension to the Force and really expand on, the mythology of Star Wars, that reincarnation is actually possible through the Force. Logically, that would kind of be the next step beyond Jedi Force Ghost, wouldn't it? Is that the Force Ghost would eventually be reborn in flesh and blood again, and all the religious aspects attached to that, and that they could play with. It would be really interesting if they went that route. I don't know. It was just something that really popped into my head, and I was thinking, it's like, she has a lot of qualities in common with Anakin Skywalker, and it would be really interesting what they do with that, and actually it would answer a lot of questions, like why she was abandoned on Jakku. Maybe some people found out that she was the reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker, and her parents hid her there to prevent other people from finding her, possibly killing her out of fear that, oh my God, Darth Vader's reborn, or bad guys trying to take her. It's like, oh my God, it's the return of Vader. We could use her to accomplish our needs, or something like that. And that's why she would have been abandoned on Jakku, to hide her away, and things like that. And I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting thing to explore if they decide to go that route. And to me, like I said, it does answer a lot of the questions associated with Rey's character if they go that route. And how would Kylo Ren react to something like that once he finds out about it? It's like he's dedicated his life trying to emulate Vader, and this scavenger nobody from the middle of the ass end of the galaxy is already more like Vader than he can ever be, because she actually is Darth Vader in a way. She contains his spirit. And, I think that'd be a really interesting theory to play with, and actually goes into my 5th crazy-ass theory, and that is the prophecy of bringing balance to the Force and what that actually means. Again, going back to tying into the prequels, which, again, I'm not opposed to, but one of the elements of the prequels that was always kind of confusing to me was the whole prophecy of the Chosen One that is going to bring balance to the Force. And I have to sit here, I'm thinking about episodes 1 and 2 and 3, and I'm thinking, what the fuck does that prophecy even mean, bring balance to the Force? Because if I'm a Jedi living in the height of the peak of the Jedi's existence, and I hear bring balance to the Force, I would think that that's a bad thing, because then the dark side gains more power. Because balance, I would think, would be equalizing the light and the dark. I theoretically, right? And that's what I would think. And, in the time of the prequels, the light side is completely in control, and you have the Republic and the Jedi Order at its height and its peak and everything, and then the prequel trilogy is kind of about the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the darkness taking over, and the original trilogy is about the dark side at its full strength and its full power, and its ultimate fall as the light side comes back by the end of the trilogy. So I'm thinking maybe now that both sides have kind of been torn down to almost nothing, maybe this new trilogy will ultimately be about bringing balance to both sides and creating a new type of Force user that isn't strictly a light side user or strictly a dark side user, but finds a way to find balance with both sides of that side of your personality. Because if you look at the Jedi in the prequel trilogy, they're all kind of like emotionless, weirdo robot monks almost. They're really, and that's kind of, it makes sense in a way, and I understand why Lucas put it the way he did, but it's kind of like, it's really weird. They have no passion, no attachment, no nothing, and the Sith are all about passion and using your emotions and all that other stuff. And it seemed to be like going too far to either side was a bad thing. And every person seems to have the capacity for both within them, and it's just a matter of, again, finding balance within yourself. And Luke is kind of that balance himself, because he's got some anger issues and attachment issues, to Han and Leia in particular. But he ultimately rejects the Sith and stays on the light side by the end of Return of the Jedi. So he's kind of got that, he's not completely a goody-goody Jedi, and not strictly within the Jedi Order that we saw in the prequel trilogy. But he's not a Sith either. So it makes me wonder if this new trilogy is going to play out in a way where the Force will truly be brought into balance, where the new Force users, which would be like Kylo Ren and Rey, they ultimately find ways to utilize both the light side and the dark side. And because Kylo Ren is going to have some kind of reconciliation with and so a redemption storyline by the end of the trilogy. I think they're definitely going that route with him, and we could very well see something like that with Rey as well, where she has to, instead of just choosing the light side over the dark, she's actually able to bring balance to the Force and be a complete Force user by not being strictly on one side or the other. So they may add to the philosophy of the Force, which is something I would actually be really interested in, and something I would find fascinating if they decide to go that route. So we'll see how that all plays out. So those are my weird, crazy, over-analytical theories for Star Wars Episodes 8 and 9. We shall see how that all plays out. So, with that, I'm done for now. My next video should be one that is covering the Royal Rumble, so be on the lookout for that. But until then, I will see you all later.